The alarm bells rang through the bridge of the stellar dawn. Captain Vexthari looked up from his command chair, his blue-scaled hands gripping the armrests. The sound meant only one thing. They had found something in space. "What is it, officer?" "Krialon?" the captain asked. His voice was calm, like always. In his 40 years of space travel, he had seen many strange things floating in the dark. "Sir, we have a large object on our sensors. It looks like a ship, but it's very old. No power readings, no life signs that we can detect from here." Krialon's green skin showed patches of worry. Young officers always got nervous when they found dead ships. Captain Vexthari stood up and walked to the main screen. The image showed a massive vessel, much larger than their own research ship. It was gray and black, with strange angles that hurt to look at. Human design, he realized. He had seen pictures of their ships in the academy. "How long has it been?" "Drifting?" he asked. "Computer says about 300 years, sir." "Maybe more. The metal shows deep space wear." 300 years. That was around the time humans had vanished from this part of the galaxy. Most people thought they were all dead now. The Great War had scattered them like leaves in a storm. "Sir, should we report this to command?" Krialon asked. Vexthari thought for a moment. They were on a research mission to study dead planets. Finding an old human ship was not part of their job, but something about it called to him. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the chance to solve an old mystery. "No, we will look at it. Ourselves first. Prepare a boarding team. I want Dr. Kellowan with us. If there are any humans still alive in there, we will need our best doctor." Dr. Kellowan was waiting in the shuttle bay when they arrived. She was tall, even for a Zephyrian, with silver skin that gleamed under the lights. Her medical bag hung from her shoulder. "Captain, do you really think we might find living humans?" she asked. Her voice held hope. She had always wanted to meet one of the legendary warrior race. Probably not. But if we do, we must be ready to help them. Vexthari checked his breathing mask. The human ship might not have good air. The shuttle crossed the dark space between ships. Up close, the human vessel looked even bigger. Windows lined its sides like dead eyes. Some were cracked. Others were completely black. "Look at the size." "Of it?" whispered Genter, their security officer. "How many humans could fit in there?" "The computer says it was a colony ship." "Maybe 50,000 people," Krialon answered. 50,000. That was more people than lived in most Zephyrian cities. The thought made them all quiet. They found a docking port that still worked. The shuttle connected with a soft bump. Air hissed as the seals locked together. "Air quality is poor but breathable," Dr. Kellowan reported, checking her scanner. "Old and stale, but it won't kill us." They stepped into the human ship. Emergency lights flickered on as they moved, activated by their footsteps. The hallways were wide and tall, built for a species that liked big spaces. Everything was gray metal and hard angles. "Which way to the main computer?" Vexthari asked. Krialon checked his portable scanner. "This way, sir." "But Captain, I'm getting some strange readings. There are power sources still active in some parts of the ship." They followed the main corridor deeper into the ship. Along the walls, they saw windows that looked into large rooms. Inside the rooms were rows and rows of white pods. Thousands of them. "Cryopods," Dr. Kellowan said softly. They put themselves to sleep. Most of the pods were dark. Their screens showed red warning lights or nothing at all. The people inside had been dead for centuries. But as they walked, they saw something that made them stop. One pod still glowed, with blue light. Its screen showed green numbers that moved up and down like a heartbeat. "Someone is still alive in there," Dr. Kellowan said. She ran to the pod and checked her medical scanner. Strong life signs. Human male, about 35 years old. His body is in perfect condition. Vexthari looked at the sleeping human through the clear window of the pod. The man had short dark hair and a face that looked peaceful. His skin was pale from the long sleep, but he seemed healthy. "Can we wake him up safely?" the captain asked. "I think so, but it will take time. His body has been frozen for 300 years. We need to warm him slowly, or his organs might fail." "Do it. We cannot leave him here to die alone." Dr. Kellowin began working on the pod's controls. The human writing was hard to read, but she had studied their language in school. Slowly, she figured out how to start the wake-up process. "It will take about 6 hours," she said. "We should move him to our ship. Our medical bay has better equipment." They carefully moved the pod to their shuttle. Back on the Stellar Dawn, Dr. Kellowin placed it in the main medical room. She connected her machines to monitor the human's vital signs. "What do you think happened to them?" Genter asked as they watched the sleeping man. "War," Vexthari answered. "The humans were running from something. They put themselves to sleep, hoping to wake up somewhere safe. But they never made it. No, their ship broke down, or they ran out of fuel. They have been drifting in space all this time." The hours passed slowly. The medical machines hummed and beeped as they warmed the human's body. His skin grew less pale. His breathing became stronger. "He is almost ready," Dr. Kellowin announced. "His body temperature is normal now. Brain activity is increasing. He should wake up soon." Vexthari ordered extra security to the medical bay, but not because he feared the human. It was standard procedure when dealing with unknown species. He did not expect trouble from one confused man who had just lost everything. The human's eyes opened slowly. They were brown like rich earth. He looked around the room, taking in the strange machines and the alien faces watching him. "Where am I?" he asked. His voice was rough from the long sleep. Dr. Kellowin stepped forward. She had practiced human words for this moment. "You are safe. We found your ship. You were sleeping for a very long time." The human tried to sit up, but she gently pushed him back down. "Rest. Your body is still weak. My ship, the others? Are they ... He could not finish the question. Vexthari came closer. "I am sorry. You were the only one we could save. The others died long ago when their sleep pods failed." The human closed his eyes. Pain crossed his face like a shadow. When he opened them again, they were wet with tears. "My name is Jake Morrison. I was Lieutenant Commander of Ship Security on the colony vessel New Hope. What year is it? How long was I asleep?" "By your calendar, it is the year 2387. You have been sleeping for 312 years." Jake Morrison stared at the ceiling for a long time. Finally, he spoke again. "Is Earth still there? Did humanity survive?" The Zephyrians looked at each other. This would be the hardest part to explain. Earth was attacked many years ago. Your people scattered across the galaxy. Most were killed or enslaved. We have not seen humans in this sector for over a century. Many think your species is extinct." Jake Morrison closed his eyes again. This time, no tears came. When he looked at them again, something had changed in his expression. Something cold and hard that had not been there before. "Thank you for saving me," he said quietly. "I owe you my life." But Captain Vexthari would later remember those words and wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. Jake Morrison recovered quickly from his long sleep. Within 3 days, he was walking around the medical bay. Within a week, he was eating in the crew dining hall with the other Zephyrians. Dr. Kellowin was amazed at how fast his body healed. "Humans are stronger than we thought," she told Captain Vexthari. His muscle tone returned in just 5 days. Most species need weeks to recover from cryosleep. Morrison seemed grateful for everything they did. He thanked them for small kindnesses. He helped clean the dining tables after meals. He asked many questions about their culture and their lives. "You saved me when you could have left me to die," he told the captain one evening. "I will never forget that." The crew grew to like him. Officer Creelon taught him how to play their card games. Security Chief Genter showed him around the ship. But it was Communications Officer Lyrasith who spent the most time with him. Lyrasith was young for a Zephyrian, only 28 years old. Her scales were bright green with silver spots. She had never met a human before and found everything about Morrison fascinating. "Tell me about Earth," she would ask during their walks through the ship's corridors. "What did it look like?" "What did humans do for fun?" Morrison would smile and describe blue oceans and white clouds. He talked about music and art and festivals. He made Earth sound like a beautiful, peaceful place. "We love to explore," he said. "That's why we built ships like the New Hope. We wanted to see the galaxy and meet new friends like you." But Morrison did more than just talk and make friends. He watched everything. When the crew worked on repairs, he stood nearby and observed. When they ran security drills, he asked questions about their procedures. "Why do you only have 2 guards on duty at night?" he asked Genter one day. "We don't need more. Space is peaceful out here. We haven't had trouble in years. But what if pirates attacked? Or hostile aliens?" Genter laughed. "Pirates are rare, and most species are friendly. The galaxy has been at peace for a long time." Morrison nodded and smiled, but his eyes stayed serious. He learned their language faster than anyone expected. Within 2 weeks, he spoke Zephyrian almost as well as they did. He also learned about their technology by asking innocent questions. "How do your weapons work?" he asked during a tour of the armory. "They're not really weapons," Genter explained. "Just stun devices for emergencies. They put someone to sleep for a few hours. No lethal weapons at all? Why would we need those? We're researchers, not soldiers." Morrison examined the stun weapons carefully. He held them, felt their weight, and asked about their power levels. Genter was happy to explain everything. At night, when the crew slept, Morrison walked the ships. Corridors. He said he had trouble sleeping after being frozen for so long. The night guards got used to seeing him and didn't think it was strange. During these walks, Morrison memorized the ship's layout. He counted doors and windows. He found the computer terminals and learned their locations. He discovered which rooms had emergency overrides and which systems could be accessed from different parts of the ship. The crew quarters were on Deck 3. The bridge was on Deck 1. The engine room was on Deck 5. The communication array was on Deck 2, right next to the main computer core. Morrison also watched the crew's habits. Captain Vexthari always checked the bridge before going to sleep. Dr. Kellowin worked late in her lab. Lyrasith liked to read in the observation. Lounge after her shift ended. "You're always walking around," she said one night when she found him in the corridor outside her quarters. "Sorry, did I wake you? I have bad dreams sometimes." "About the others who didn't make it." "No, you didn't wake me. I was reading." She showed him the book in her hands. "It's about ancient Zephyrian poetry. Would you like to see it?" They sat together in the lounge, looking out at the stars. Lyrasith read him poems about love and hope and the beauty of the cosmos. Morrison listened and asked thoughtful questions. "Your people seem very wise," he said. "You value peace and knowledge above everything else." "What did humans value most?" she asked. Morrison was quiet for a moment. "Family, loyalty, the will to survive no matter what." "Those are good things too." "Yes, but sometimes survival requires hard choices." 3 weeks after his revival, Morrison began using the ship's communication system. He said he wanted to send messages into space, hoping to find other human survivors. Of course, Captain Vexthari agreed. Use any equipment you need. If there are other humans out there, they should know you're alive. Morrison worked in the communication room for hours each day. He sent signals on different frequencies, using codes that the Zephyrians didn't understand. What do the messages say? Lyraseth asked one day. Just basic information. My name, my ship, my location. If any humans receive it, they'll know what it means. But Morrison's messages contained much more than basic information. Hidden in the code were detailed reports about Zephyrian technology, weapon capabilities, and ship defenses. He described their peaceful nature and their lack of military preparation. He also sent star charts showing trade routes and colony locations. He included information about other species the Zephyrians had contact with. Each message was a complete intelligence briefing. The messages went out on old military frequencies that the Zephyrians had never monitored. They were compressed and encrypted in ways that looked like random static to anyone who didn't have the right codes far away in space. Automated beacons began receiving Morrison's transmissions. Systems that had been silent for centuries suddenly came to life. The beacons recorded every message and forwarded them to other beacons, spreading the information across the galaxy. After a month on the stellar dawn, Morrison seemed completely settled into ship life. He joked with the crew and helped with daily tasks. He shared stories about human culture and answered questions about Earth history. But late at night, alone in his quarters, he studied data files about Zephyrian military forces. He memorized the locations of their homeworlds and industrial centers. He learned about their allies and trade partners. The ship's computer gave him access to everything. The Zephyrians had no secrets from each other, so they saw no reason to keep secrets from their human guest. Morrison discovered that the Zephyrian home world, Veltar, had a population of 2 billion. Their space fleet consisted mostly of research vessels and cargo ships. They had only 50 military vessels, and those were used mainly for rescue operations. Other species in their alliance were similar. The Koran had beautiful crystal cities, but almost no weapons. The Melori were master engineers, but hated violence. The Vexhai were traders who resolved conflicts through negotiation. It was a galaxy full of civilized, peaceful species who had forgotten how to fight real wars. One evening, as Morrison and Lyraseth watched the stars together, she asked him about his plans. What will you do when we reach Veltar? Will you stay with us? I'd like that, Morrison said. You've all been so kind to me. I want to find a way to repay that kindness. You don't need to repay anything. Helping you is the right thing to do. Morrison smiled, but in the darkness, his expression was cold. Still, I believe in paying my debts, one way or another. The next morning, Morrison sent another coded message into space. This one was different from the others. It contained just 3 words in the old human military code. Target acquired? Proceed. Somewhere in the deep space between stars, the message was received and acknowledged. Ships that had been drifting in the darkness for decades began to power up their engines. The hunt was about to begin. The stellar dawn reached Veltar after 6 weeks of travel. Morrison stood at the observation window, looking down at the beautiful blue and green world below. White clouds swirled over vast oceans. 3 moons hung in the purple sky like silver. Jewels. It's amazing, he said to Lyraseth, who stood beside him. Your home world is beautiful. Wait until you see the crystal cities, she replied with excitement, and the floating gardens. My family will want to meet you. Captain Vexthari announced their arrival over the ship's communication system. All crew, prepare for orbital approach. We will dock at Veltar Station in 2 hours. Morrison had been sending his coded messages right up until the last moment. His final transmission was simple. Arrived at primary target. Begin countdown. The space station around Veltar was enormous. It sparkled like a diamond against the stars, with docking bays for hundreds of ships. Vessels from dozens of different species came and went peacefully. "Welcome to Veltar Station," the traffic controller said over the radio. "Please proceed to docking bay 7. As they approached the station, Morrison counted the defensive platforms. There were only 12, and they looked old. Most were probably just navigation beacons, not real weapons. "Those defense platforms?" he asked Genter casually. "Do they still work?" "I think so. But they haven't been used in over 100 years. We don't really need them anymore." Morrison nodded. Everything was going exactly as he had hoped. After docking, Captain Vextari led Morrison through the station corridors toward the government district. Hundreds of aliens walked past them, all different shapes and colors. There were tall, thin Koran with crystal skin, short, furry Milori carrying tool bags, graceful Vex-High with their silver robes. None of them paid attention to Morrison. They had no idea what a human looked like or what humans were capable of. "The High Council wants to meet you," Vextari explained as they walked. "They're very excited. You're the first human anyone has seen in this sector for decades." They entered a large chamber with a high ceiling. 12 Zephyrian council members sat in a circle around a speaking platform. Their scales were darker, and the ship crew showing their age and wisdom. "Welcome, Jake Morrison of Earth," said Council Leader Tarvesh. Her voice was warm and kind. "We are honored to meet a survivor of your legendary species." Morrison stepped onto the platform. He had practiced this speech for weeks, knowing this moment would come. "Thank you for this welcome," he began. "When I woke up from my long sleep, I thought I was alone in the universe. I thought humanity was finished. But you showed me kindness when you could have left me to die." The council members nodded approvingly. "Your people saved my life and gave me hope. You fed me, clothed me, and treated me like family. I can never repay such generosity." "You owe us nothing," Tarvesh replied. "Helping those in need is simply what civilized beings do." Morrison continued his speech, telling them about human culture and history. He made humans sound like peaceful explorers who only wanted to learn and trade. He talked about their love of art and music and their desire for friendship with other species. "We were not perfect," he said, "but we always tried to do what was right. All we ever wanted was a place in the galaxy where we could live in peace." When he finished, the council voted unanimously to grant him full citizenship. They offered him a home, a job helping refugees, and protection under their laws. "You will always be welcome here," Tarvesh told him. "Veltar is your home now." Morrison bowed deeply. "I am grateful beyond words. I hope someday I can do something worthy of your trust." But even as he spoke these words, Morrison knew that human ships were already moving toward Veltar. His messages had been received. The trap was set. That night, Morrison stayed in guest quarters on the station. Viraseth had invited him to visit her family's home on the planet below, but he made excuses about being tired. He sat by his window, looking out at the peaceful space traffic around the station. Soon, all of this would change. Soon, the Zephyrians would learn what humans were really like. At exactly midnight station time, Morrison's communication device beeped softly. The message was in human military code. "Fleet arrival in 6 hours. All targets confirmed. Prepare for Phase 2. Morrison smiled for the first time since his revival. It was not a kind smile. 6 hours later, the first human ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Veltar system. They were sleek and black, built for war rather than exploration. Their weapons were already powered up and ready to fire. Lead ship was the battle cruiser New Terra, commanded by Captain Lisa Stone. She was a tall woman with short red hair and cold blue eyes. Like Morrison, she had been sleeping in cryopods for centuries, waiting for this moment. "All ships, this is Stone," she broadcast to her fleet. "Target system confirmed. Begin standard intimidation protocol." The human fleet moved toward Veltar in battle formation. There were 20 ships in total, each one bristling with weapons that could destroy entire cities. On Veltar Station, the traffic controllers noticed the approaching ships and tried to make contact. "Unknown vessels, this is Veltar Traffic Control. Please identify yourselves and state your business." Captain Stone's response was broadcast on all frequencies, so every ship and station in the system could hear it. "This is Captain Lisa Stone of the human military. We claim this system by right of conquest. All alien vessels will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with total destruction." The message caused panic. Throughout the system, civilian ships began fleeing toward the outer planets. Station personnel sent emergency signals to the Zephyrian military. On the station, alarms began ringing. Captain Vexthari ran to the communication center, his face filled with confusion and fear. "There must be some mistake," he said to the human. "Fleet, we are a peaceful system. We have done nothing to threaten you." Morrison appeared beside him, no longer looking like the grateful refugee they had rescued. "There's no mistake," Morrison said quietly. His voice was different now, colder, more dangerous. Vexthari stared at him in shock. "Jake, what is happening?" "These are your people?" "Yes, they are my people. And you made a terrible error in judgment when you decided to wake me up." The truth hit Vexthari like a physical blow. "You've been lying to us. All this time, you've been planning this." Not planning, preparing. Every human in cryosleep was trained for this possibility. "We knew that someday someone would find us and wake us up. We counted on aliens being foolish enough to trust us." More human ships appeared as the main fleet arrived. They surrounded the space station and began targeting its defenses. The old platforms didn't even try to fight back. They were too outdated to be effective against modern human weapons. "But we saved your life," Vexthari said, his voice breaking. "We showed you kindness." "That was your first mistake," Morrison replied. "Kindness is weakness. Mercy is a flaw. You should have left me frozen, or better yet, spaced me when you had the chance." Captain Stone's voice came over the communication system again. "Attention all alien vessels and stations. You have 10 minutes to surrender unconditionally. Lower your shields, power down your weapons, and prepare to be occupied. Any attempt to flee or fight will result in immediate destruction." Morrison walked to the communication console and entered his personal code. The human fleet immediately recognized him as their inside agent. "Agent Morrison reporting," he said into the microphone. "All intelligence objectives completed. Target system is defenseless. No significant military presence detected. Recommend immediate occupation." The Zephyrians in the communication center stared at him in horror. The man they had rescued, befriended, and trusted had betrayed them completely. "How could you do this?" "To us?" Lyraseth asked. She had just arrived and heard the conversation. Tears ran down her green cheeks. Morrison looked at her with empty eyes. "Because you made it easy. You trusted me. You showed me your weaknesses. You gave me access to everything I needed to destroy you. But we were friends." "No, we weren't. You were useful to me, nothing more. Humans don't make friends with aliens. We make slaves of them." Outside the station, the human fleet began boarding the civilian ships that had been too slow to escape. The occupation of Veltar had begun, and it was all Morrison's fault. The human occupation of Veltar began within hours. Captain Lisa Stone brought her flagship to dock at the main station while her other ships took positions around the planet. Any Zephyrian vessel that tried to escape was either captured or destroyed. Stone was different from Morrison in many ways, but just as dangerous. Where he used lies and friendship, she used fear and violence. Her first order was simple. All Zephyrian military personnel were to surrender immediately or watch their cities burn. The Zephyrian defense fleet was small and old. 12 patrol ships and 3 larger vessels that were used mainly for rescue missions. They had no real weapons, just shields and emergency equipment. Admiral Rexter, the highest-ranking Zephyrian military officer, tried to negotiate. Captain Stone, we are a peaceful people. We have no desire for war. Surely we can discuss this situation and find a solution that works for everyone. Stone's response came in the form of weapons fire. Her ship destroyed 2 Zephyrian patrol vessels in seconds. The explosions lit up the space around the station like deadly fireworks. "There is your negotiation," Stone broadcast to the remaining ships. "Surrender now or join your friends in death." The rest of the Zephyrian fleet powered down their engines and submitted to boarding parties. Their crews were taken prisoner and locked in cargo holds on the human ships. On the station, Morrison watched the surrender with cold satisfaction. Captain Vexthari and his crew were under guard in the communication center. They could only watch as their world fell to the humans. "How many of you are there?" Vexthari asked Morrison. "How many ships?" "Enough," Morrison replied. "We've been waiting in the dark spaces between stars for centuries, building our strength, learning about the species that defeated us before." "The old war," Vexthari said. Quietly, "You're the survivors from the old war. We're more than survivors. We're what your people made us become when you tried to destroy humanity. We learned from our defeat. We became smarter, stronger, more patient." Dr. Kellowan spoke up from her position near the medical station. "But we helped you. We saved your life. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" Morrison looked at her with empty eyes. "It means you were stupid enough to show mercy to an enemy. That's a mistake your species won't make again." Captain Stone arrived at the station 6 hours later. She was tall and muscular, with scars on her face and hands that spoke of many battles. Her uniform was black with silver insignia that showed her high rank. "Agent Morrison," she said, nodding to him respectfully. "Excellent work. Your intelligence was perfect. These aliens had no defenses worth mentioning." "Thank you, Captain." The infiltration proceeded exactly as planned. Stone turned to look at the captured Zephyrians. "So these are the ones who found you. How generous of them." "Very generous, Morrison." "Agreed. They gave me everything I needed to destroy them." Stone walked over to Captain Vexthari. "You're the leader of the ship that found our agent?" "I am Captain Vexthari of the research vessel Stellar Dawn." "Good. You'll be useful for making announcements to your people. They need to understand their new situation." Within 12 hours, human forces had taken control of all major installations around Veltar. They captured the orbital factories, the communication networks, and the traffic control systems. Any Zephyrian who resisted was killed immediately. The humans then began sorting the alien population into categories. Young, healthy aliens were marked for slave labor. Older ones were sent to detention camps. Scientists and engineers were kept separate for interrogation about their technology. Admiral Kate Rivers arrived the next day with reinforcements and supply ships. She was even more experienced than Stone, with gray hair and eyes like winter ice. Under her command, the human fleet grew to over 50 vessels. "Morrison," she said when they met in the station's command center, "I've read your reports. Outstanding. Intelligence work. You've given us everything we need to expand operations." "Thank you, Admiral." The locals were remarkably trusting. Rivers studied the star charts Morrison had compiled during his time on the Stellar Dawn. Each one showed the location of other peaceful species in the region. "The Koran crystal worlds are 3 days from here," she noted. "How many ships do?" "They have. Maybe 20 cargo vessels. No military ships at all. They believe violence is against their religion." "Perfect. Captain Stone, take 10 ships and secure the Koran system. Standard occupation procedures." "Yes, Admiral. What about prisoners?" "The usual. Workers go to labor camps. Resistors are eliminated. Leaders are brought back for interrogation." Stone saluted and left to prepare her ships. Morrison watched her go, feeling a familiar sense of satisfaction. Another species would soon learn what happened to those who showed weakness in a galaxy. Ruled by humans, but Rivers had more questions for him. What about the Mellery engineering worlds? And the Vex-High trade routes? Morrison provided detailed information about both species. The Mellery were master builders, but pacifists who would surrender quickly. The Vex-High were merchants who valued profit over principles. "They'll all fall within a month," Rivers said with confidence. "Once word spreads about what happened here, most species will surrender without fighting." The human expansion plan was simple and brutal. They would use the Zephyrian communication networks to contact other species and demand immediate surrender. Those who submitted would become slaves. Those who refused would be destroyed as examples to others. Down on Veltar itself, the occupation was proceeding smoothly. Human ground forces had taken control of all major cities without serious resistance. The Zephyrians were not fighters by nature, and centuries of peace had made them soft. Morrison was given a tour of the capital city by Major Dan Foster, one of the ground commanders. The streets were empty except for human patrols and lines of Zephyrian prisoners being marched to processing centers. "Beautiful city," Foster commented as they walked past tall spires made of blue crystal. "Too bad we'll have to tear most of it down to build proper industrial facilities." "What will happen to the civilians?" Morrison asked. "Standard procedure. Useful ones become workers. The rest get relocated to designated areas where they can't cause trouble." Morrison nodded. It was exactly what he had expected. Humans had perfected this system during their expansion before the Old War. They would strip each world of its resources and turn its people into slaves. That evening, Morrison found himself back in the communication center where his former rescuers were being held. Dr. Kellowan was treating injured prisoners with medical supplies the humans had allowed her to keep. "How can you live with yourself?" she asked when she saw him. "These people trusted you. They cared about you." "They were naive," Morrison replied. "In this galaxy, trust gets you killed or enslaved. They chose their fate when they decided to. Be kind to a human." Lyrasith looked up from where she sat on the floor. Her bright green scales had turned dull with despair. "I thought you were different. I thought humans could be good. Humans are survivors. That's all we've ever been. Good and evil are luxuries for species that don't have to fight for everything they have. But we weren't fighting you. We were helping you." Morrison knelt down next to her. "That was your mistake. You should have killed me the moment you found me. Instead, you showed me weakness and expected gratitude in return." Captain Vexthari spoke from across the room. "What happens now? Will you kill us all?" "That depends on how useful you are. Admiral Rivers believes in efficiency. Dead aliens don't work, but they also don't eat resources or cause problems." The next morning brought news that made Morrison smile. Captain Stone had reached the Koran system and found it completely defenseless, just as he had predicted. The crystal beings had surrendered without firing a single shot. Admiral Rivers was pleased. "Excellent. 2 systems secured with minimal losses. Morrison, your intelligence continues to be invaluable." But Rivers had bigger plans. She was already preparing to contact other human fleets scattered across the galaxy. The successful occupation of Veltar would serve as proof that their species was ready to reclaim its place as the dominant force in space. "How many ships can we expect from the other fleets?" Morrison asked. "Conservative estimate? 500 vessels within 6 months. Optimistic? Over 1,000. Morrison felt a surge of pride. After centuries of hiding and waiting, humanity was finally strong enough to take revenge on the galaxy that had tried to destroy them. The occupation was just the beginning. The human expansion continued for 2 months without any real resistance. Captain Stone's forces took 3 more star systems. The Mallory engineers surrendered after seeing what happened to the Koran. The Vex High traders tried to negotiate, but were enslaved like all the others. Admiral Rivers was confident that nothing could stop them now. The galaxy had grown soft during the centuries of peace. Species that had once been warriors had forgotten how to fight. But Rivers was wrong. The first sign of trouble came when a human patrol ship failed to report in from the outer rim. Then another ship went missing. Then 3 more disappeared in the same sector. Pirates? Suggested Major Foster during a briefing on Veltar Station. "No," Rivers replied, studying the star charts. "Pirates run away when they see military ships. These vessels vanished completely. No distress signals. No wreckage found." Morrison had a different theory. Could be survivors from the old war. Species that remember how to fight humans. Rivers nodded slowly. "That's what I'm afraid of." The answer came a week later when a damaged human cargo ship limped back to Veltar. The captain was badly injured and his crew was dead. His ship had been attacked by vessels using hit-and-run tactics. "They came out of nowhere," the captain gasped as Dr. Kellowan treated his wounds. "Black ships with no markings. They knew exactly where to hit us to disable our engines and weapons." "What did the attackers look like?" Rivers demanded. "Never. Saw them clearly. They wore dark armor and moved fast. But their weapons were designed to kill humans specifically." Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. Only one species had developed anti-human weapons during the Old War. A species everyone thought was extinct. "Void hunters," he whispered. Rivers turned to him sharply. "That's impossible. We wiped them out completely." "We thought we did, but they were nomads. Small fleets that lived in the deep space between stars. Some could have survived. The Void Hunters had been humanity's most dangerous enemy during the Old War. They were warriors by nature, living for battle and conquest. Unlike the peaceful species humans now faced, the Void Hunters understood violence and used it expertly. More attacks followed over the next few days. Human supply convoys were destroyed. Isolated outposts went silent. The attackers always struck quickly and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Admiral Rivers increased patrols and tightened security, but it didn't help. The Void Hunters knew human tactics too well. They had studied their enemy for centuries, waiting for the right moment to strike back. The real blow came when they attacked the slave labor camps on Neltar, a Mallory home world. 3 human transport ships were destroyed, and over 2,000 alien prisoners were freed. Worse, the Void Hunters left behind weapons and supplies for the survivors. "They're trying to start a rebellion," Rivers realized. "They want the enslaved species to fight back." "It won't work," Morrison said confidently. "These aliens are too peaceful. They don't know how to use weapons." But Morrison was wrong again. The freed prisoners didn't just run away. They organized. They spread word to other camps. They began attacking human patrols and supply lines. The rebellion grew quickly. Zephyrians who had been forced to work in the factories turned their tools into weapons. Koran crystal workers used their knowledge of mining to collapse tunnels and trap human soldiers. Even the peaceful Vex High began sabotaging trade routes. On Veltar Station, the captured crew of the Stellar Dawn watched the reports with growing hope. Captain Vexthari smiled for the first time since the occupation began. "Your perfect plan is falling apart," he told Morrison during one of their daily interrogations. "It's just a minor setback. Admiral Rivers will crush these rebels easily." "Will she? The reports say your people are losing ships every day. How long before your fleet is too weak to hold what you've taken?" Morrison's confidence was shaken, but he wouldn't admit it. "Humans always win in the end. We're stronger than any other species. Are you? Or are you just better at lying and betraying those who trust you?" The situation grew worse when the Void Hunters launched a direct attack on Veltar itself. Their fleet appeared without warning, using stealth technology that human sensors couldn't detect. The lead ship was commanded by War Chief Thane Darkstar, a veteran of the Old War who had spent centuries planning his revenge. His species looked like humans, but taller and stronger, with dark skin marked by ritual scars. "Human Admiral," Darkstar broadcast to Rivers. "I am Thane Darkstar of the Void Hunter clans. You remember us, don't you? Your species tried to exterminate mine 300 years ago." "The Void Hunters are extinct," Rivers replied, but her voice showed doubt. "Some of us survived. We've been waiting in the dark spaces, growing stronger, learning patience. Now we're here to return the favor you showed our people." The Void Hunter attack was precise and devastating. They targeted the human ship's weak points, systems that Morrison had never thought to protect. Within an hour, half of Admiral Rivers' fleet was either destroyed or crippled. During the battle, a Void Hunter strike team warded Veltar Station. They moved through the corridors like shadows, eliminating human guards and freeing alien prisoners. Morrison found himself face to face with 3 Void Hunter warriors in the communication center. They wore black armor covered in symbols that hurt to look at. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy. "So," said their leader, removing her helmet to reveal a scarred face and silver eyes, "you're the human who betrayed his rescuers." "I did what I had to do to survive," Morrison replied, backing away slowly. "Survival through betrayal. How very human of you." The warrior raised her weapon, but before she could fire, Lyrasith stepped between them. "Wait," she said to the Void Hunter. "Don't kill him the way he killed us. Let him live with what he's done." The warrior looked surprised. "You want to show mercy to this creature? After what he did to your people?" "Not mercy, justice, death. Is too easy for him. Let him see his perfect plan crumble. Let him watch as the galaxy rejects everything he represents." Morrison stared at Lyrasith in shock. Even after everything he had done, she was still trying to protect him. The irony was crushing. The Void Hunter considered this, then lowered her weapon. "Perhaps you're right. Death comes to all eventually. Shame lasts forever." As the battle raged around the station, Morrison found himself locked in a cargo bay with other human prisoners. Through a small window, he could see Void Hunter ships, rescuing alien slaves and destroying human vessels. Admiral Rivers tried to rally her remaining forces, but it was too late. The rebellion had spread to every occupied world. The humans were outnumbered and outmaneuvered in desperation. Rivers contacted the other human fleets scattered across the galaxy, begging for reinforcements. But the message she received in return was not what she expected. "Admiral Rivers," came the reply from Fleet Commander Cole Bradley. "We've been monitoring your situation. The consensus is that your expansion was premature. You've awakened enemies we're not ready to face. You're abandoning us? We're preserving the species. Humanity will survive, but not by making the same mistakes that led to our defeat before." The human evacuation of Veltar began that night. Those ships that could still fly loaded up with whatever supplies and prisoners they could carry. Admiral Rivers and her surviving officers prepared to retreat to the outer rim, but Morrison was not among those evacuated. As the last human transport prepared to leave, Lyrisseth made a request to the Void Hunter commander. "Let me keep him," she said. "Someone needs to remember what happened here. Someone needs to tell the story of what mercy costs when it's given to those who don't deserve it." Thane Darkstar agreed. Morrison would remain on Veltar as a witness to the fall of his own plan's dot as the human ships disappeared into hyperspace. Morrison stood at the observation window where he had once watched his fleet arrive in triumph. Now he watched them flee. In defeat, was it worth it? Lyrisseth asked, standing beside him. Morrison was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. "You should have left me frozen. Your mistake wasn't trusting me. It was believing that mercy would be returned with mercy. Now you understand why the galaxy needed to put humanity in chains. We never learned to be better. We only learned to be more dangerous." Lyrisseth nodded sadly. "Yes, but someone has to keep trying to be better. Someone has to believe that mercy and kindness have value, even when they're used against us." "Why?" "Because the alternative is becoming like you." Outside the window, alien ships worked together to rebuild what the humans had destroyed. The galaxy was learning to defend itself again, but the cost had been terrible. Doc Morrison would spend the rest of his life on Veltar, a living reminder of humanity's capacity for both survival and cruelty. The species that had shown him kindness would continue to show kindness to others, even knowing the price they might pay. The war was far from over, but the galaxy had learned an important lesson. Mercy was dangerous, but losing the ability to show mercy was worse.